One beautiful morning, kids! How are you all? I hope you're all fine and doing great. This is teacher Judyland and welcome to our English class here on Radio Z-eskwela, Siguradong Masaya on 88.5 FM Z Radio, Siguradong Lingaw, Siguradong Kuyaw. Today, we will have a brand new English lesson. Our lesson goal for today is to define and identify informational text. Ready your ball pens, notebooks, and your modules in English 6, Quarter 2, Module 1. Let's do it! Reading with comprehension is an important tool in academic excellence. For our first activity, you will be reading text and will be asked questions that require appropriate understanding. On page 1 of your modules, you will see a selection. Let's read it together and answer the following questions. Number 1. What is the selection all about? Number 2. How many species of grasshopper are there? Number 3. What have you learned from the selection? All right, let's start reading the selection now. Are you ready? Let's get started. Grasshopper. The chirp of the grasshopper is one of the best-known sounds of summer. The sound is made by male grasshoppers rubbing their hind legs against their wings. Grasshoppers can be found in grassy places all over the world, especially in warmer countries. There are over 9,000 species, and not all of them are able to fly. Let's now answer the questions given earlier. Number 1. What is the selection all about? Yes, the selection is about grasshoppers. Number 2. How many species of grasshopper are there? There are over 9,000 species of grasshoppers. Number 3. What have you learned from the selection? You can have varied answers, but they should all point to what were mentioned in the selection, such as how the grasshoppers are able to produce sounds and where they can be found. Let us now proceed to the next part of your modules. On page 2, you are directed to read and study about informational text and its different types. What is informational text? Informational text has the primary purpose of expressing information about the arts, sciences, or social studies. This text ranges from newspaper and magazine articles to digital information to non-fiction trade books to textbooks and reference materials. There are specifically 5 types of informational text. These are the following: literary non-fiction, narrative informational text, expository text, argument and persuasion text, and procedural text. Let us first discuss the first one. The literary non-fiction includes shorter texts such as personal essays, speeches, opinion pieces, essays about art or literature, biographies, memoirs journalism, and historical, scientific, technical, or economic accounts, written for a broad audience. Autobiographies, biographies, other narrative nonfiction, informational picture books, and informational poetry often fit into this category. The second one is narrative informational text, which typically communicates accurate information and has a well-defined beginning, middle, and end. On page 3, you will see an example of narrative informational text. Let's read it together. Shall we? Let's begin. A countryman and a snake. A countryman's son stepped on a snake's tail accidentally. The tail suddenly turned and hit him, so he died. The father was very angry, so he cut off part of the snake's tail. Then, the snake, in revenge, stung several of the farmer's cattle. It caused him great loss. However, the farmer decided to stop the fight with the snake. He brought food and honey to the mouth of its lair and said to it, "Let's forget and forgive. Perhaps you are right to punish my son and take revenge on my cattle, but surely I was right in trying to revenge him. Now that we are both satisfied, why should not be friends again?" "No, no," said the snake. "Take away your gifts. You can never forget the death of your son, nor I lost my tail. Injuries may be forgiven, but not forgotten." Now, let's discuss about procedural text. Procedural text provides step-by-step guidelines that describe how to complete a task. An example of procedural text is found on page 4. Let's read the example. Let's begin. How to make fried rice. Ingredients: 2 cloves of garlic, 2 onions cut into small pieces, 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil, a plate of rice, some salt. Steps: first, pound garlic and 2 pinches of salt. Second, heat vegetable oil on a frying pan. Third, put the pounded garlic and salt. Add onions to the hot vegetable oil. Fry them a while. Fourth, put 1 plate of rice. Fry and mix them around 3 minutes. Fifth, add 2 pinches of salt. Continue frying until the rice is hot enough. Finally, put the fried rice on a plate. Serve with a sunny side up. Fourth, we have expository text. Expository texts utilize various text structures, such as description, cause and effect, comparison and contrast, problem and solution, question and answer, and temporal sequence. An example is given on page 5. Let's read it together. Let's do it. This invention brings forth a new era that permits the user to drive in complete luxury without the need to focus on the manual control of the automobile. By implementing driverless cars, we can finally control the roadways in a safe and efficient manner. This invention will result in some of the greatest societal growth in human history. Lastly, we have argument or persuasion texts. Argument texts provide evidence with the intent of influencing the beliefs or actions of the target audience. These texts typically include claims, evidence, and warrants to explain how the evidence is linked to the claims. Writers of persuasion or argument also make appeals to the author's credibility, to the audience's needs, or to reason and evidence. Let's read the example found on page 5 of your modules. Should children be allowed to stay in at break times? A group of children at Willow Tree School feels they should have the right to stay in at break times if they want to. There are some impracticalities regarding such a ridiculous idea, but the foolish children appear not to have considered them. Firstly, the children always have to be supervised, and if there were children inside and outside, this would not be possible. The budget for lunchtime stuff is already being stretched, and there is certainly not enough money to employ extra staff just to satisfy these selfish children. Some of the children are suggesting that the teachers could supervise them if they choose to be indoors at playtime. Are the teachers not working hard enough already? Do they not deserve 50 minutes to reflect on the morning? Do they not need those 50 minutes to prepare for the afternoon? Asking the teachers to supervise the children is beyond their job description. Everybody knows that fresh air is needed to help the brain function at its best. In a recent study, Oxford University found that children's concentration tripled once they had been outside. If children could stay cooped up inside all day, their concentration would suffer. Of course, some people might say it's unfair to make children go outside on a cold day. However, it has been proven that colds and illness spread in warm conditions, so being outside is beneficial to their health. Plus, they get to run around and get some exercise while being outside. Children need to go outside at break times. They need fresh air and exercise for their health. Teachers need a break to prepare, reflect, and relax. However, the fundamental reason why children cannot stay in at break times is that there is just not enough money to provide supervision. From what you have learned, are the types of informative texts the same? How are they different from each other? You have to ponder on the questions while we take a short break. When we return, we will have another activity. We will answer "Let us practice" on page 7. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
The Radyo Z-eskwela program of the Division of Davao de Oro is being brought to you by Nueda Builders Construction and Supply Incorporated, Maverick Builders Incorporated, Mitch Construction and Supply, Archicons Architectural Construction and Supply, DB Construction and Supply, Hanaway Builders Corporation, Phoenix Corvada Tagum Gasoline Station, Master Construction and Supplies, Mackenzie Builders, GP&H Construction Incorporated, Metro Gear Construction Corporation, NEN Builders and Development Services Corporation, Max Maze Enterprises Incorporated, We Inc. Construction Company, Rangay Construction and Supply, East Sussex Enterprise, WM Construction, Councilor Boogie and Miss Marjorie Vertodazo, Icon Builders and Supply, and Apex Mining Company Incorporated.
Welcome back, kids! Are you ready for our next activity? Let's move to page 7 and answer the part "Let us practice." Read and identify the following types of informational texts. Choose the correct answer inside the box and write your answer before each number. Ready? Let's begin! Number 1. It utilizes question and answer problems and solutions. It utilizes question and answer problems and solutions. Number 2. It provides step-by-step guidelines that describe how to complete a task. It provides step-by-step guidelines that describe how to complete a task. Number 3. It includes biographies, memoirs, journalism, and historical, scientific, technical, or economic accounts. It includes biographies, memoirs, journalism, and historical, scientific, technical, or economic accounts. Number 4. It includes claims, evidence, and warrants to explain how the evidence is linked to the claims. It includes claims, evidence, and warrants to explain how the evidence is linked to the claims. Lastly, number 5. It occurs in the literature and emphasizes the importance of beginning, middle, and end. It occurs in the literature and emphasizes the importance of beginning, middle, and end. Fantastic job, kids! Now, let's check how well you did in that activity. Number 1. Argument text utilizes question and answer problems and solutions. Number 2. Procedural text provides step-by-step guidelines that describe how to complete a task. Number 3. Literary nonfiction text includes biographies, memoirs, journalism, and historical, scientific, technical, or economic accounts. Number 4. Expository text includes claims, evidence, and warrants to explain how the evidence is linked to the claims. Finally, number 5, narrative text occurs in the literature and emphasizes the importance of beginning, middle, and end. That was an awesome work, kids. Let's now proceed to the next activity. Please turn to page 8 and let us practice more. In the situations below, classify the text given whether it pertains to the type of informational text. Write NT for narrative text. Again, NT for narrative text. PT for procedural text. PT for procedural text. ET for expository text. ET for expository text. AT for argument text. AT for argument text. And LT for literary non-fiction text. Again, LT for literary non-fiction text. Are you ready? Let's do it! Number 1. The entrepreneur at the store talks with compassion about what he sells. The entrepreneur at the store talks with compassion about what he sells. Number 2. The chef on the cruise uses a cookbook when he cooks. The chef on the cruise uses a cookbook when he cooks. Number 3. The police officer knocks on neighbor's house, having with him a warrant of arrest. The police officer knocks on neighbor's house, having with him a warrant of arrest. Number 4. Our teacher emphasizes that we should write with coherence and our write-ups should have a beginning, middle, and end. Our teacher emphasizes that we should write with coherence and our write-ups should have a beginning, middle, and end. Number 5. My mother likes to read documentaries, for she sees life as a journey. My mother likes to read documentaries, for she sees life as a journey. Great job, kids! Why don't we start checking your answers? Let's do it! For number 1, the correct answer is AT, or argument text. The correct answer for number 2 is PT, or procedural text. While for number 3, your answer should be ET, or expository text. NT, or narrative text, is the correct answer for number 4. Lastly, if you answered LT, or literary non-fiction text, for number 5, you are correct. Awesome work, kids! It's time for us to move to the next activity. Let us assess ourselves by doing the activity found on page 10. Among the types of informational text, discuss what you liked about it and what you do not like about it. Write your answers on your notebooks. While you do that, we will take another break. Teacher Judyland will be back in just a short while.
The Radyo Z-eskwela program of the Division of Davao de Oro is being brought to you by Nueda Builders Construction and Supply Incorporated, Maverick Builders Incorporated, Mitch Construction and Supply, Archicons Architectural Construction and Supply, DB Construction and Supply, Hanaway Builders Corporation, Phoenix Corvada Tagum Gasoline Station, Master Construction and Supplies, Mackenzie Builders, GP&H Construction Incorporated, Metro Gear Construction Corporation, NEN Builders and Development Services Corporation, Max Mays Enterprises Incorporated, We Inc. Construction Company, Rangay Construction and Supply, East Sussex Enterprise, WM Construction, Councilor Boogie and Miss Marjorie Vertodazo, Icon Builders and Supply, and Apex Mining Company Incorporated.
Welcome back to our class here on Radio Z-eskwela, Siguradong Masaya. You are still with Teacher Judyland. Have you finished the activity I left before we took a break? I hope so, because right now we are going to have our last activity for this lesson. Let us go to page 11 of your modules. Let's enhance ourselves. Connect column A to column B. Classify whether the type of informational text in column B signifies the example in column A. Ready? Let's do it. Number 1. The judge's statement at the court. Choices under column B are the following. Letter A, narrative text. Letter B, expository text. Letter C, fictional text. Letter D, argument text. And letter E, procedural text. The judge's statement at the court. Letter A, narrative text. Letter B, expository text. Letter C, fictional text. Letter D, argument text. And letter E, procedural text. Number 2. Stories in the storybook. Choices are letter A, narrative text. Letter B, expository text. Letter C, fictional text. Letter D, argument text. And letter E, procedural text. Number 3. Weather forecast. Choices are letter A, narrative text. Letter B, expository text. Letter C, fictional text. Letter D, argument text. And letter E, procedural text. Number 4. Cookbook. Choices are letter A, narrative text. Letter B, expository text. Letter C, fictional text. Letter D, argument text. And letter E, procedural text. Number 5. News report. Choices: letter A, narrative text. Letter B, expository text. Letter C, fictional text. Letter D, argument text. And letter E, procedural text. Excellent job, kids! Let us now check your answers. Ready? For number 1, The judge's statement at the court is an expository text. Letter B for number 2. Stories in the storybook is letter C. Fictional text. Number 3. Weather forecast is an argument text. Letter D. Number 4. A cookbook is a procedural text. Letter E. Finally, number 5. News report is a narrative text. Letter A. That was a fantastic job. Now, there are still activities found on your module which you will have to do on your own after our English class. On page 9, you will do the part Let Us Remember, and on page 11, the part Let Us Reflect. Remember to submit your outputs to your English teachers along with your modules. That's it for today. This has been your teacher, Judyland. Catch me on our next English class next month. Remember, with English language, you are at home anywhere.
Radyo Z-eskwela Executive Committee, the school's division superintendent, Eufemia T. Gamutin Seso 5. Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Romel R. Handayan. OIC Curriculum Implementation Division Chief, Karina S. Frasco. School Governance and Operations Division Chief, Dr. Ruben J. Riponte. Members: Cecilia Morales, Dr. Hilda A. Opeña, Dr. Arlene B. Lim, Dr. Eldicles B. Calzadora, Dr. Dexter A. Siquinia, Nohara O. Pinute, Noemi P. Canales, Dr. Grace D. Pontillas, Virgilito C. Pabrices, Juanito Lapiceros, Engineer Norberto S. Manlangi, Jomar M. Dumupoy, Bob Daylan S. Milabat, Medard T. Ampit, and Paz Eugenia Villusino. Technical Working Committee, Productions and Communications, Lorely E. Quijano, Given G. Hinampas, Judyland T.U., Donna D. T. Bolifer, Mary Rose N. Resma, Riven Manuel, Irene Lea C. Manguhon, and Bessie Aya N. Banias. Social Media and Packaging Team, Christian and Hara L. Martesio, William R. Ranara, Joan T. Iscoton, Roberto S. Acusar Jr., May B. Istanyol, Richard H. Arellano, Lee L. S. Blanco, Ralph A. Tabanyag, Angelo Gutierrez Jr., and Jade Karen Araiz.